Hi, and we are here today in this lesson to talk about funnels. And if that word is new to you, we're going to define what that is. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the elements that can go into your funnel, and we're also going to talk about some steps that you can take to check the funnel that you have, because if you are in business, you do have a funnel, whether you realize it or not. And hopefully this lesson is going to help you better organize your existing operations, or if you haven't started yet, put those systems into place. So here we go. First of all, let's define funnel. And we're going to use the definition from Wikipedia, which is Wikipedia says the purchase funnel or purchasing funnel is a consumer-focused marketing model which illustrates the theoretical customer journey towards the purchase of a product or service. So pretty easy, right? If we are in business, we all have marketing systems in place, again, whether we have intentionally put those there or not. And sometimes a funnel can also be called a marketing funnel or a product funnel, but really this definition from Wikipedia is pretty all-encompassing, and it's all about taking the customer from the beginning of a process to a final purchase point with you. Now we started in our deep dive into each of the 7 business systems. We started by talking about customer first, and we really have to come back to that at this point. The reason we started with the customer is because it's all about the customer, and we have to keep coming back to the customer, and the funnel is one of the things that really drives that point home. So now, you may be familiar with funnel, maybe the concept of a funnel is totally new to you. If it's not totally new to you, I'm gonna throw you for a loop right here, because there is a very neglected, actually 2 funnel system. There are 2 ways to look at a funnel, and the first one is definitely the most common, but companies all the time make the huge mistake of forgetting to dive into the second funnel. So we'll look at the first funnel to start with, and this is the pre-purchase funnel. And the pre-purchase funnel basically locks your customer from a free offering, which could be content on your blog or just a YouTube video that they can click play on and watch, or even just an Instagram post. And then the next step in that funnel is going to be that you're going to ask them for an email address, and they're going to pay you for a product or service or offering with their email address. And then from there, you're going to move them into a series of products at various price points, going from a low price point to a high price point. So that's the first funnel, and that's the most common funnel that we see in the marketing world today. Okay, so the second funnel is something I like to call the customer experience funnel, because it takes into account what the customer is experiencing as they move through your funnel. And it's not really, it's more than just pushing products at different price points, and it really allows a customer to engage with your brand. The different thing about this funnel is it's actually 2 triangles put together tip to tip. And I'm going to walk you through both triangles right now. So we're looking at an hourglass instead of just a triangle. The top part of the hourglass, or the top triangle, walks the customer through a series of 5 different steps, and I'm going to read them to you. They are: number 1, reality; number 2, he's ready; number 3, slightly resistant; number 4, he's starting to get into a relationship with your brand and you; and number 5, he realizes he needs something, or she, doesn't matter. So in that first step, reality, he's stuck, but maybe he doesn't know that he's stuck. You know, as the guide and the product or service offering the business owner, that he's stuck. You know something that he doesn't know. He may not be ready. In the second step, he's ready because he may have experienced some kind of problem or frustration that makes him want to change. And this is why understanding your customers' pain points or your customers' fears or your customers' concerns is so important. And really, at this point, they're not even your customer yet. They're just your audience because they haven't actually purchased something from you. But understanding what your audience's pain point or fear or struggle is really important, because when he hits that point, that's when he's going to be ready to start engaging and interacting with your business and your brand. In the third step of that top funnel, there's a little bit of resistance that your audience is going to meet with you. These are going to be things like social pressures and doubt. People are going to be whispering in his ear. They're going to be giving him opinions about what he thinks he should or shouldn't do. And this might hold him back from engaging with your brand. This is a spot where you need to learn to deal with the objections that an audience might give you about the product or the service that you're offering and how they want to interact and engage with you. In the fourth step, he's ready. You've dealt with all the objections and met with all the resistance. So there's a relationship that has been that's starting to be built there, and he has started to interact with your brand, and trust is starting to be built. And when there's trust, there's an opportunity to create value, and when value is created, a sale can be made. So you're really close to that point of conversion or that sale right now. And then the final step, he realizes that working with you or buying your product or engaging with your brand is definitely something that he's ready to do, ready to commit to, and wants to move forward with. So that brings you to the point of conversion, which is the center point of that hourglass. That's a fancy word for the sale happens. That's what we refer to fancy words in our house. My husband will say, "What does that mean?" And I will say, "Well, that is a fancy word for this." It's one of our communication techniques. Marriage tip there, okay. So at the point of conversion, sometimes your customer or your audience and now your customer isn't necessarily giving you money at that first point. Sometimes what they're giving you is simply an email address. And remember that that is a form of payment, and that you need to respect that your customer has given you something very close to them. They've given you permission to be in their inbox, and that relationship is there, and you need to work to honor and respect that relationship, just like you would work to honor and respect a friendship or a relationship with a family member. Now, the second part of this funnel is interesting because it includes a line that runs down the center of this triangle, and this is called the free line. Now, the free line is basically something that a guy named Eben Pagan introduced. Now, there's a video that we're going to provide you the link to on YouTube where you can watch Eben Pagan's video about the free line. And when I heard him describe the free line, I wanted to figure out a way to fit that into a traditional marketing funnel, like the first funnel we just went over. And so you'll see that in this video, you'll see that on this triangle, in that top tier, it's the smallest part of the triangle, and there's a free offering, and then there's a little bit of a paid offering. And then in the next tier down, there's more of a free offering, and then a little bit more of an expensive item. And then in the next tier down, you have an even bigger freebie, and then a more expensive item, and then finally a big freebie, and then the most expensive item. And this is kind of how you need to start to look at your product funnel, is for every product or service or offering, what are you offering your customers that's free, and what are you offering that's paid? And the more that you offer free, or the greater the value, the free item, the more expensive the final offering needs to be. And you'll understand why when you watch Evan's video, why that works. And there are lots of different ways to incorporate that into different types of businesses. That can be done in information products businesses, obviously, but it can also be done in physical products, and it can also be done in brick and mortar storefronts and service offerings. And so we'll talk about a few examples of those here in a second. Now, before we go any further, I want to stop and read you the definitions of some big fancy marketing terms that kind of intimidate me, and I like to kind of simplify these things so that I understand them better. But if you're starting to read marketing blogs, you're going to run into these terms a lot, and so I wanted to make sure we covered what they mean here. The first term I want to define is lead generation, and we're going to use Wikipedia as our definition source here. Lead generation is, in marketing, lead generation is the generation of consumer interest or inquiry into products or services of a business. Leads can be created for purposes such as list building, email newsletter, list acquisition, or for sales leads. Okay, so when someone gives you their email address, basically Wikipedia says they are officially a lead. I like to think of them as officially a customer at this point because they've given me something they are entrusting me with, and that's their email address. The next definition I want to go over is customer acquisition. Customer acquisition is a set of methodologies and systems to manage customer prospects and inquiries generated by a variety of marketing techniques. So basically, customer acquisition is the same thing as this funnel that we're going to help you build, and we're going to walk you through a few steps to do that in a second. The next term I want us to identify is customer retention. And customer retention is the activity that a selling organization undertakes in order to reduce customer defections or in order to keep a customer from leaving. Successful customer retention starts with the first contact an organization has with a customer and continues throughout the entire lifetime of the relationship. I like to think of customer retention from the top to the bottom of that hourglass funnel. The entire time they're interacting with your brand is an opportunity for them to either gain trust with you or decide that you're not for them and move to another point. Now, I always tell people that the goal of your brand is to draw or to drive. You want to draw customers to you or you want to drive them away. You either want to make them passionate fans that are going to engage with your brand, love you and support you so that you can love and support them, or you want to give them the opportunity to say, what she's offering isn't for me, and let them move on. And that happens in business. It happens in a really good product or marketing funnel. You want that to happen. And always remember that when a customer leaves, when they unsubscribe from your email list or they choose to go to a different source, remember not to burn that bridge, and remember to always act with graciousness and respect for those folks. So one mistake I see brands make all the time, and I've worked really hard in my business to sort of bridge this mistake, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second, is a business offers too low a price point and then too high a price point. So let's say that you want to create a very expensive product, service, or offering for an audience. Let's say that it's a product that's in the high hundreds or maybe even the $1,000 price point. So maybe an $800 or a $1,000 product. This might be an e-course or even just a very expensive physical product, or it could be something like a live event or workshop, which I know are popular with creative entrepreneurs. In order to get someone to be willing to pay you that much money, you need to have a funnel in place so that they can basically climb up the rungs of that ladder, building trust with you until they're ready to pay for that high price point item. So the mistake that often happens is an entrepreneur will think, I want to go create a high priced item or offering, and they don't have any low priced items to get the customer to that point. So if you have an idea that you want to implement that's going to cost a lot of money, remember to very slowly and over time put the other steps of the funnel in place. Now, a very cool thing that can happen with you is if you're just starting out, you can easily create a free offering, and then you can probably create a $20 or $30 or $40 offering, and then you can create a $100 offering. And it might take you a couple of years to get to that high price point offering that you want to sell, but your audience and your customer base is going to grow with you. And when you do get to that offering, it's going to be really hard for you to fail if you create that trust along the way with your audience. Now, if you've been in business for a while, you might have a business that doesn't have a high price point offering, and maybe you're wondering, is that something that I need to be working towards, or is that something I need to create? And not necessarily. If you have an online business that sells widgets like candles or picture frames or something like that, scrapbook supplies, you may be running a profitable business and you may not have any need to create a higher priced offering or product. In fact, if you have a profitable business, that might be slightly distracting for you as an entrepreneur. But if you'd like to think about, are they coming in?
Very nice.
So you may not always want to think about creating a high-priced offering, but if it is something that you're interested in considering, look at the price points and make a list of all the existing price points that you currently have. Look at what problem or solution they offer for your customer. And one of the easiest ways you can think about creating a high price point offering is look at the niche of customers that you currently have and then think about creating an experience for them. The best example I can give you for this is Disney World. People pay thousands of dollars to go to Disney World and hug Cinderella and have a picture taken. If you can create an experience for your customers, and it doesn't have to be quite like Disney World, but if you can create something that's going to engage them in community, make them feel good, make them feel something, give them confidence or empower them, they're going to be willing to pay you a higher price point for that item, especially if they already trust you. Now, a great example of this is about 5 years ago, scrapbook companies and paper crafting companies all over the United States started offering workshops. Now, because the customers had already engaged with the brands, they were really willing to pay a high price point to go to these live in-person workshops. And again, I'm not saying that every brick and mortar store or e-commerce shop needs to start offering workshops or even e-courses. It'd be really easy for a brick and mortar store to offer some kind of free calligraphy class or even a paid type of art class. And free or paid, you can go either direction on those things. It's not necessarily that everyone needs to do that, but if you are looking for that higher price point in your product funnel and you do feel like that's a place that you need to go, I just wanted to give you that idea. Now, here's a quick 5-step method to double checking your product funnel. Number 1, make a list of all the products and services you offer, including free offerings. So including free email opt-ins, or sometimes another word for that we see in marketing world is lead magnets. Organize these by price point. I like to use an Excel spreadsheet for this step. Another thing that I like to encourage entrepreneurs to do at this point is check for profitability and investment. Think about how much time and money it cost you to create that item, and then how much money you make on that item, and think about if it's worth the return on investment. Next, I want you to get very clear about the benefit or the solution that the audience and the customer receives on each of those individual offerings. You're going to want to do this for each funnel. Now, what I don't want you to do is create multiple solutions within each funnel. Each funnel you have as a company should only lead to one dominant solution. You might have 2 funnels, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but I want you to make sure that each funnel leads to only one dominant solution, and that the offerings in the funnel are basically rungs on the ladder that lead to that big overarching solution. The third step is make sure that your content ties back to one of the solutions in that funnel or your overarching dominant solution. One way you can do this is by really solidifying your messaging statements as a company. Now, let me give you an example from my last company, which was English Paper Company. We had 3 key messages that we embraced as a company during the life of that business. They were innovative designs, excellent customer service, and humble beginnings. These key messages were basically promises that we made the customer, and anything that we said had to tie back to one of those messages. So our promise to the customer was that they would get innovative designs, we were going to be original and unique, they were going to get excellent customer service, we really wanted to be the best, do the best job that we possibly could to make sure that customers got what they needed from us. And they were going to hear a story about humble beginnings. It wasn't a company that was started with a lot of money, it was bootstrapped, and we didn't feel like it was right to pretend that we were something that we weren't. Now, what we were supposed to do with those key messages was this. Let's say, for example, that we'd been at a trade show and CNN had walked up to me or to one of my staff members, and CNN was going to ask us a question. Let's say they were going to say, "How was the weather today?" and put a microphone in my face. My answer to the question, "How was the weather today?" needed to somehow be woven back to innovative designs, excellent customer service, or humble beginnings. So my answer might have been something like, "It's a beautiful day. I love designing in this great weather. It's going to be a great day for lots of inspiration to go create some original designs." If my customer service gal had been helping answer that question, she might have said, "It's a beautiful day. I'm always happy to look out the window and it makes me smile a little bit more, and I feel like I offer better customer service on days when the sun is out." And so that's an example of how you will use your messaging, your brand messaging and your key messaging to always tie back to those offerings and those products in your funnel. The fourth step in making sure that your funnel is solid is that